How you guys doing tonight? Woo! You guys excited to be here summer nights? Yes? All right, there we go. So this is my first night here, but I have heard some awesome, amazing things from Laura. That is my wife. And so she has told me some awesome, cool stuff that's been going on. And I think last week, correct me if I'm wrong, someone got baptized? Yeah, that is awesome. Clap for that. Seriously. That is awesome. That means that things are happening here, that there's things that are touching people's lives and things that are just changing lives. So that is awesome, and that means all of you have some sort of hand in that. So congratulations. So since this is my first night, and some of you don't know me, I want to introduce myself. My name is Damian. Many of you know me, and if you don't, you probably recognize me, and that's because I have a beard, and it's kind of long, and it's kind of red, but better than Jason's. So I am the experienced pastor. Oh, I think you got a little mad. I'm the experienced pastor here at a church called Home. So that basically means everything that happens from the time that your tires hit that parking lot until the worship band starts playing, I have a hand or a foot or a head or some random body part in every area of ministry that happens here. So if you had a good time, if you came this morning, you had a good time, you're welcome. If you didn't, it's someone else's fault. But we're going to go ahead and get ready tonight and get into tonight. My series, the message that I'm calling it today. Have you guys ever heard of the phrase, all in good time? Yes. Yeah, all in good time. You have to respond to that. Have you ever heard of the phrase, all in good time? Yeah. There you go, perfect. I did children's ministry for 3 years, and that was a struggle. You always had to keep them going. So I need you guys to talk back to me when I ask you to. Perfect, thanks. So you guys all heard of the phrase, all in good time. So I thought about that about 6 months ago. I was like, all in good time, yeah, that's a good one. But then I was like, but it's all kind of about all in God's time. So the message that I came up with, I titled it all in God's time. And so the message that we're going to be working out of, the verse that we're going to be working out of is Lamentations 3, verses 25 through 27. It's not going to be on the screen because I forgot to send that to Pastor Jason. But just trust me, that's what it is. So it says, the Lord is good to everyone who trusts in him. So it is best for us to wait in patience, to wait for him to save us. And it is best for us to learn this in our youth, to learn that patience in our youth. So tonight I'm going to be talking about waiting. So say waiting. Waiting. I'm going to be talking about waiting and about what it's like to be waiting for God's purpose for your life, for God's plan for your life, for whatever that calling is that he has for your life. And not just waiting. It's not just good enough for us to be waiting. We have to learn to wait with patience. We have to learn to be waiting and possibly waiting and possibly waiting. And we don't know how long it could be. So we have to be patient in that waiting. So to get started, I have a little story that I want to tell, just to kind of get an idea a little bit about God so we can understand him more when it comes to waiting. So there's a man who had a dream one night, and in his dream he met God, which is pretty cool. But he met God, and in that dream, God said, hey, I'm going to let you ask me any 3 questions. Any 3 questions. Come up with anything. And he's like, all right. He thought for a minute, and he goes, all right, question number 1. What's time like for you? What's time like for God? And he said, and God replied and said, 1,000,000 years for you is like a second for me. The man was like, whoa, that's crazy. Mind blown. And then he asked a second question. He said, all right, what's money like for you? What's money like for God? And he said, $1 million for you is like a penny to me. And the guy thought for a second. He was like, that's crazy. He thought, and he was like, all right, I got a good one. And he had a little smirk on his face, and he goes, all right, hey, God, 3rd question. Can I borrow a penny? And God goes, sure, but you're going to have to wait a second. So we live in a time where we have an instant gratification. Everything that happens to us, we can immediately tell somebody about. We have social media where we can have something awesome happen to us and post it and have people replying, and they're all like, hey, guess what happened to me, and blah, 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 blah. And someone can reply back instantly, within seconds, like, that's awesome. Or with YouTube, that's the big thing is first. Like, I was the first one to comment. It's just instant. Everything is instant. And not just social media. We also have Amazon, where we can order things from anywhere in the world. Anything from anywhere in the world, we can have it within 2 days. And for me, personally, 2 days is way too long. I hate waiting 2 days. I would rather, I told Laura this the other day, I would rather go to the store and pay more money to have it now than to have it 2 days from now. I can't wait. It's just hard for me. So like we've forgotten how to wait. We've forgotten what it's like to be patient, to have to wait on things, to wait for a time period, to wait for X amount of time. Sometimes back in the day, you order things, you had no idea when it was going to show up. Or if anyone's ever ordered anything from China, you have no idea when it's going to show up. It could show up tomorrow. It could show up a week from now. More than likely, it's going to be about a month or two because it just takes forever to get here. And that waiting is like, it just takes forever. And it takes forever. And it takes forever. And you don't want to wait. You want it now. So we've forgotten how to wait. So I'm going to be talking about waiting, and specifically with the plan that he has for your life. And Lara's making fun of me right now because I'm just going to throw this out there. I do this a lot. I can't help it. I don't know what it is. Every time that I talk to people, I do this. So I had a meeting the other day where I was doing this, and I was like, oh, I realized I did it. I put my hand in my pocket, and then this hand started doing it. So I can't control it. So I'm sorry, as I'm still doing it right now. So just bear with me on that. So tonight I've made 3 observations on waiting. So these are my 3 observations on waiting. Number 1 is God's timeline for us. God's timeline is always perfect. Always. It doesn't matter what it is, it's always perfect. And so when I'm talking about this, I'm talking about these 3 things. I relate them to some part of the Bible. So there's one of the 3 parts of the Bible. And most people are probably going, there's an Old Testament, New Testament, what's the 3rd one? I'll tell you, but not now. You're going to have to wait. So this is the Old Testament of our lives. This is the Old Testament of what's going on, of the plan that God has for us. It's the building up to it. It's our history. It's our past. It's, for some of us, it's what some people call our BC days. It's our before Christ days. It's where we weren't maybe following the path that we should have been following, but now we are, hopefully. Now we are. And so those are the things, all those things that also happened during that time are going to affect the way that your plan is. They're all there because of a reason. These are all the things that have led up to this point in our lives, to this present time. And so those are everything from our successes, our failures, our challenges, even our embarrassments, things that have happened to us that have embarrassed us. Like successes would be like that time that you scored the winning point in whatever X sport you want to enter here. Or the failures of telling a friend that you're going to do something for them and then failing to follow through on that promise. Or the challenges of trying to learn how to play an instrument, which I did, and it was awful, and I'm not very good at it. But I tried, and it was so challenging, and I hated it. Or that time, or your embarrassments, like that time that you were in 2nd grade, and you went on a skiing trip with your dad, and you got to the top of the mountain and looked at him and went, I gotta pee. And he goes, well, tough. And you may or may have not peed your pants at the top of the mountain. And I'm not going to say whether or not that's a true story about me, but it may or may not be. So, but all those things, everything that happened in our life, those are all building blocks. Those are, yeah, you like that, Jason? Yeah, those are all building blocks. Those are things that have laid the foundation, that have laid the cornerstone of our lives, that have built up to what is going to inevitably be the plan that God has for us. And so my second one is God's timing is always perfect. I haven't even looked, so I've been hoping that these have been showing up on the screen. But God's timing is always perfect, which is very similar to the first one, but very different. Timeline refers to our past. It refers to the things that led up to now. Timing is about our present lives. It's the things that have to happen or the things that will happen coming up in order to stay in line with the plan that God has for your life. And they have to happen in just the right time. So God's timing is always perfect when it comes to our lives. Sometimes those things that happen are boring. They're going to be boring, but they're important. Like, who's in school right now? Raise your hands. Who's in school? Several people. A few people. So, take this how you wish. I hated school growing up. I couldn't stand it. I was good at it. I just hated going. I told my 6th grade teacher that she gave me homework every week. And I told her every week, I said, I'm not doing your homework because I know how to do it, and it's a waste of my time. So But then the test at the end of the week, I got A's on every single test at the end of the week. So I was a C student because I just chose not to do homework. So please do your homework. Do your homework. Please do your homework. I have changed now. I'm not that guy anymore. Those are my BC days. I've changed now. But homework is important. But sometimes homework is boring. Sometimes going to school and learning that, that X equals this equals that, and it's boring. And you don't want to do it. But that doesn't make it any less important. Depending on what you want to do with your lives, depending on what you want to do when you grow up, that thing could be one of those building blocks. When you look back, it could be that building block, that foundation of whatever it is that you want to do. You may not like science now, but if you want to be a doctor, it's pretty important. Learning biology and things like that, that's an important thing. You want to be an engineer, that's a pretty important thing to make sure that you know math. You can't get away with that elementary math and try to be an engineer. I work at a company with them, and if any of them walked in there and was like, 2 + 2 = 4, they'd probably be like, all right, get out. Thanks for your time, but you're going to have to leave. But this is the third part of the Bible that I told you I would tell you about. It's called the intertestamental period. And I'm going to be honest, until about a week ago, I had never even heard of that word. Never heard of it. But I had heard it from another point of view, and it was another title, it was called The 400 Silent Years. And so between the last verse of the Old Testament and the first verse of the New Testament, for us, it's just a turn of a page. But in biblical times, it was 400 years. And so in that 400 years, important things had to happen. Boring things sometimes, but important things had to happen in those 400 years in order to help advance what was going to be Jesus' ministry, which was going to be the gospel. And so one of the biggest things that happened, and I'm sure most of you have probably heard of it, you ever heard of the Roman Empire? Yeah, Roman Empire, yes? Yes, there we go. The Roman Empire came to power during that time. That's when their power really grew, and that's when they were all through Europe, most of Northern Africa, Western Asia. They covered a lot and everything in between. And so during that time, that's when they came to power. And one of the biggest things that they did, one of the most important things that they did that actually ended up helping Jesus' ministry, and this is where that phrase, God's going to make your enemies do work for you kind of thing. They did an amazing thing that was also extremely boring, and that was they built roads. Just roads. They built roads. Boring, but they built roads. But had they not built those roads, that would have made travel, up until the roads were built, travel was very difficult. When you needed to go somewhere, it was, I need to go that way, so I'm going to go that way. So you start going that way, and about 3 days into your trip, you realize, hey, there's a giant mountain in my way. Now I got to spend another 3 days going around the mountain. Now, with roads, I know that road goes to my destination. I need to get on that road and go. And it took trips that used to take weeks and turn them into days, trips that took months and turn them into weeks. It decreased everything. Laura and we're originally from Northern Virginia, and all of her family still lives there. Most of them still live there. And so when we go to travel, it's super easy. It's not like I know it's that general direction. It's I know I need to get on 40. That turns into 81. And then I take that all the way up there for 7 hours. But if I didn't know that road, if there wasn't a road for me to follow and I just had to guess a destination, that 7 hours could easily turn into several days. If I just had to, look at a map and guess it. Who's ever looked at a map? Probably nobody in this room because we don't need to. It's easy. GPS tells us exactly where to go. Roads tell us exactly where to go. So those are those important things. Another story about building roads and how boring they are, and I don't know if he's in here because I can't see, but Pastor Shai works for TDOT. That is Tennessee Department of Transportation. There he is. I see him coming in now. He told me a story one time about they had to fix a pothole, and that entailed taking the asphalt, putting it into the pothole, and then staring at it for 45 minutes while they waited for it to dry. Just standing there. And so me, probably driving on the side of the road, I'm like, look at them 4 guys just standing there looking at a hole in the ground. But it was important. Had they not done it, there would have been a giant pothole in the ground. I would have ran into it, destroyed my car. So had they not been doing that mindless, boring thing, but extremely important thing, there could have been some serious damage. There could have been people that could have been seriously hurt, a car accident that could have occurred. So all these things, like I said, sometimes boring, they're all important, but you can't rush them. You can't rush the things that happen in your lives. They have to happen at just the right timing. The timing of God has to be just right. So you may have to deal with school for another X amount of years. You may be out of school and thinking about going back to school. And whatever it is, those things you have to it has to take its time. It has to go at the pace that God says that it has to. And unfortunately, you don't have much of a choice with how long it takes. But he's going to give you the strength to get through it. He's going to give you the patience to get through it. You just have to be able to wait on him. You just have to learn to wait on him. So my third observation that I have about it is God's plan is always worth the wait. So that's the last one. God's plan is always worth the wait. So his timing is perfect, or his timeline is perfect, his timing is perfect, and his plan will always be worth whatever the wait that you have to deal with, however long it takes. Jeremiah 29:11 says, and I know it's cliche, but I'm going to say it anyway. For I know the plans I have for you. They are plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future. So he has a future for you. You just have to learn to wait for it. You just got to take the time and go through the motions, and whatever the things that he tells you that you have to do, you just have to do it. And as you get through it, your life will you'll start to see the plans that he has for you start to unfold. You'll start to see those promises that he has for you unfold. And so this is the New Testament of our lives. This is our future. This is the things that we don't know that's going to happen yet. We're hoping it's happening. We may know what our plan is for our lives. We may know what our calling is, what our promise is that he gave us. We may not know. But either way, it's the future, and it's always worth the wait. We just have to be patient and go through the motions. And so my life, most of my life, I didn't follow a path that God would have preferred. I followed a path that was my own. Most of the time, I did what I wanted. And from a young age, 5, 6 or so, I was told that I was going to be a pastor. And I was like, no, I'm not. Nice try. Try again. But I'm not going to. And my whole life, I fought it. And I fought it. And I fought it. But had I just been patient and waited, now that I'm in it, now that I'm doing it, there's nothing else I'd rather be doing. It brings me joy to be able to be here tonight and just to be able to talk to you guys. It brings me joy to help make lattes on a Sunday morning. And I did it this morning. I made 4 of them. And it brings me joy to be able to do those things in the ministry that if I had just waited, my life would have eventually brought me here anyway. I'd eventually have been in Knoxville, Tennessee, preaching in front of you tonight. But instead, I did it my way, and it was difficult, and it got in the way, and it made my life hard. Sometimes hard where it didn't need to be hard, where it would have just been easier if I had just stopped, listened, and waited. And I just had patience. Sometimes I tried rushing things, and it just didn't work out. So now that I'm here, though, I love it. And I know that this is what I want to do forever. Sorry. I thought I wasn't going to do this. All right. So it's now that I'm doing it, it's what I want to do. I can't wait till I get to do this full time. This is what I want to do right here. Everything about this building, everything about what goes on, this is what I've waited for. This is what I should have been waiting for. This is what I should have been waiting for. And I had just done it. My life would have been so much easier. My life would have been easier if I had just stopped and listened and been patient and waited for God's plan for my life.